When people are looking to buy a TV, one of the top questions I get asked is, do I really need Dolby Vision? And if I don't have Dolby Vision, will I be missing out on not having Dolby Vision on my television? Well, let's start by looking at some examples of some famous Netflix shows, and the TVs we'll be using are going to be the LG G3 on the right and the Samsung S90C on the left. I think these TVs are rather comparable in most content. They go blow for blow, except for gaming, where the S90C excels quite heavily. The S90C is going to be in the default Filmmaker mode, and it is important to note that because this is what you're going to see out of the box when you pull up the Filmmaker mode option, which is going to get you the closest to that Dolby Vision presentation. However, there is a problem, in my opinion, with the default Filmmaker mode, as it is going to be on the DCI-P3 color space by default, and automatically the TV won't switch to the color space that you're using. So I do recommend just putting it into custom BT 2020 for the best color options. However, in this video, you will be seeing it out of the box in that DCI P3 color space, so you can see the differences out of the box. That's what we're about on this channel, is showing you what you're getting out of the box. All right, so now I'm going to add in the waveform, and we're going to kind of examine some examples for you. So here in the shot, one thing I want to point out is that something that could make these examples look different is going to be the white balance of the TVs and how the TVs are out of the box in that sense, because the G3 is definitely pushing a little bit more green and the Samsung is going to be pushing a little bit more magenta. So just something you want to keep in mind. For example, if you look at the G3 with the light on the skating rink, you will see that it looks a little bit more green. A lot of people have pointed out this is what the G3s have looked like out of the box as well, so you could probably expect something very similar. I will say it's not something you totally notice until it is side by side next to another TV, so I don't know that too many people really notice it or be bothered by it. Same thing goes for the magenta push from the Samsung. For this example, other than that, there's not really anything that sticks out. If you look at the waveform, the S90C does have a little bit more luminance in the pink, but other than that, this is one of those examples where most people probably wouldn't be able to tell you which one was the Dolby Vision and which one wasn't, because they look almost the same. All right, moving on to the next one, I want to show you a difference in color when you're looking at these two images. In a lot of these examples, the G3 is just going to look better with the color, in my opinion, and a lot of that reasoning is because we are in that default Filmmaker mode for the S90C with the DCI P3 color space. That's why I think it is important for you to change it to BT 2020 if you want a little bit better saturated colors and a little bit more of that vibrant look that you're getting with this Dolby Vision presentation. And it is really giving you more vibrant colors, the G3 is, which kind of shocked me when I had them side by side because I expected the S90C to be better since it's QD OLED. But again, when you are in that default Filmmaker mode, you're just getting a weaker presentation than the G3's Dolby Vision. So when you see examples like this, you can't really fault people for wanting Dolby Vision on their TV. And it does seem like at times Dolby Vision is giving me a better presentation with the way that the lighting looks too. It just looks more evenly lit on the G3. Like if you look at the bottom left of the TV here, and it is like this on a lot of different scenes for this show, where it looks like the G3 just has a little bit more lighting in the bottom corners. And again, I'm not sure if that's the way it's supposed to look because we don't have a reference monitor. Of course, we don't have that kind of money to throw around, but you can see that, yeah, it's a little bit more lit in those corners, and it makes the paint on the wall, for example, stick out a little bit more. Just the image overall just feels brighter and more impactful on the G3. For this, I definitely would take the G3's Dolby Vision presentation over the S90C's default Filmmaker mode. Where in that other example I just showed you, I really couldn't care less which one I would get because they looked very similar. But there are separations, as you can see here, with certain scenes and certain colors. I'm going to show you another example regarding colors with this next one. So if you look at the girl here in the middle, you can see that the shirt is a lot different with the blue. And you can see that the blue is a little bit more vibrant on the G3. It's something that I personally would prefer over the S90C's presentation. Now again, I'm not sure how it's supposed to look, but Dolby Vision is going to give you a little bit more vibrant colors than the S90C's default Filmmaker mode. And that's what I'm seeing with some of these colors, and you can even see it with the girl on the left. The purple shirt is a little bit different as well. And again, we see that difference with the corners of the images looking a little bit more lifted, a little bit more brighter. The S90C in DCI-P3 mode, you are getting having a little bit weaker colors in my opinion than if you would be using the BT2020 color space. So that's why I recommend using BT2020 over DCI-P3, or else you'll get examples where it'll look maybe a little bit washed out in some of the colors. Switching shows here, you can see that the luminance on the S90C is more pronounced in this scene. For example, when they're side by side, you know, this is something that did stick out to me. There were certain scenes in this show that did look better on the S90C. Now, I don't know if that is a result of it being QD OLED versus not being QD OLED, but I also want to point out that we do still see that corners on the G3 look more evenly lit than the S90C's presentation, for example. And again, I don't know why this is. It maybe just appears that the G3 has better shadow detail within Dolby Vision than the filmmaker mode of the S90C. That could be the case, or it could be that the Dolby Vision content is just different because of the dynamic metadata. Or maybe the Dolby Vision mode just takes into consideration that LG OLED TVs tend to crush shadow detail, so it just lifts it a little bit in the Dolby Vision mode. I'm not really sure. I can only just compare them side by side and tell you what I see. So remember how I said these TVs trade blows? Well, this is definitely the case. The G3 this time will look brighter in this scene than the S90C. When you got a lot of strong white light coming in with the G3, that is when it really shows its strengths, and it can get brighter than the QD OLED TVs when you have examples like this. Yes, there is color involved, but really what is sticking out the most is going to be that white light in the center of the water there that's really making the image come alive. And I have to say that I really do prefer what the G3 looks like compared to the S90C in this scene. Now, I want to show you some examples where you won't really be able to tell the two apart. I mean, honestly, the G3 and the S90C in this example look pretty similar across the board, except for in the corners with the G3 once again looking like it's more evenly lit. So that's the only thing that I see different with this scene in particular. So there's going to be a number of scenes where you will think that these two TVs are almost the same TVs. Looking at this next example, is this just a difference of shadow detail on the two TVs, or is this just the way that the presentation of Dolby Vision is? You know, I was looking at the S90C versus the G3, and I thought the G3 actually had worse shadow detail than the S90C, but when I'm looking at the Dolby Vision content versus the S90C, then the Dolby Vision content is giving me better shadow detail. So I'm not really sure what is going on there exactly, because the G3 does tend to crush shadow detail more often than the S90C. But as I'm showing you, this doesn't appear to be the case with the G3 and Dolby Vision. So do you need Dolby Vision at the end of the day? I mean, honestly, it doesn't hurt to have Dolby Vision on your TV. When the Dolby Vision modes are done right, they can look spectacular, and it is something that it would be nice to have on your TV. So if you get a Sony A95K, for example, it has some of the best Dolby Vision that I've ever seen. And this is something that I have to stress, that some of the other TVs that I've seen, they don't have great Dolby Vision modes, and I'd prefer to use the HDR 10 mode. Now, a lot of this is really subjective, and it really will depend on who you are. Last year, I did a comparison with the S95B and the G2, where the G2 looked overly lifted, and it looked like it wasn't how it was intended to be with Dolby Vision mode in mind for that selected mode. So yeah, there is going to be times where maybe something is skewed out of the box and when the TV first comes out. These modes change with updates all the time as well, and that's something you always have to take into consideration. Hopefully this video will be helpful to you, and if you did find it helpful, please hit the like button and consider subscribing for more content. And if you have any questions at all, leave those in the comments. I'll be sure to answer them. If you guys want to watch more comparison videos, check out one of the two right here. I think you'll like it.